Go. Ready? Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 6:22 p.m. Tonight we have Director Teitler, Director DeFreitas, Director Ramirez, Director After, and myself present, meaning we have a quorum. Thank you to our interpreter. Astrid, would you please share the interpretation instructions with our participants, and then we will turn on the interpretation function. Thank you. The first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes to the agenda?
I move that we strike agenda item number 10, District Accountability Committee update. We'd love to hear from them, but they're not available this evening.
Is there a second to that?
I second.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended, striking item 10, presentation from the District Accountability Committee?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Our next agenda item is our opening celebrations and updates. Our Superintendent, Dr. Anna Cole.
All right, we've got, that looks like it's on. Okay. We're at a very limited amount of time left in the end of the school year. So there are a ton of things to celebrate because it's kind of the season for celebrations. Want to share some gratitude to the Family Resource Center that last night hosted a Know Your Rights training for families, given the current context around Garfield County. The FRC worked really closely with partners, with Valley Settlement, with Voces Unidas to train up the team. They worked with CERC to make sure that our Family Resource Center team has internal capacity to run that training. And Misael Urtiaga, the family liaison at Riverview, really led that and did a great job with making sure parents have access to helpful information to know their rights and support of our immigrant families. So really grateful for the team for that. This is also graduation season, and which means there's all sorts of graduations. There's preschool, kinder, 8th grade. There's also celebrations of student work. There's been film festivals over the last couple of weeks, passage projects coming up, multiple art shows, camping trips, awards nights, athletic banquets, baccalaureate celebrations. I got to attend a little bit of the preschool graduation at GSES, and it was really an amazing turnout from families and staff. And it was really fun to hear the career aspirations of the class of 2039. So big kudos to the staff who are showing up after hours to celebrate our students and really create memorable moments for kids and families in all of these celebrations. Big thank you to the families who are attending, ready to celebrate, recognize their kids, and for all the work they're doing behind the scenes to make these celebrations and field trips and recognitions happen. We know there's a big lift from our families and community in terms of volunteering for these events. Lots of gratitude to the students who are showing up and showing off their work and their accomplishments. And I know that the board and our executive team is looking forward to attending high school graduations this week. Ready for the World is tomorrow, Bridges Friday, and then our 3 high schools Saturday morning. So looking forward to that. Want to celebrate and really name the 101 students who will be graduating this year. Look for them on at graduations. They'll be recognized with black and white cords, symbolizing the seal of biliteracy that students have earned. That is double the number of students who have achieved a seal of biliteracy over last year. So really want to celebrate the Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Education Department for their work elevating the rigors and the benefits of bilingualism and biliteracy. And then to those, congratulations to those students who've achieved that. Also just want to take a minute to recognize like the collective transitions. A lot of these are celebratory, but this time of year for our schools and our educators and anybody connected to schools with the celebrations, it's also kind of a heartbreaking time of year. This season can sneak up on you and it can feel like everyone is in transition, from our kids to our colleagues who are often transitioning, retiring, switching schools, taking on new jobs. It feels in education, it's kind of cyclical. It happens often all at once. So it's a tough time of year as well in terms of transitions. Last week, we celebrated 8 staff members who are retiring, and combined, they had over 160 years of service to our district, which is profound for only 8 folks. And so those are some of the moments that we're also celebrating that kind of also break our hearts. We're about to say goodbye to 480 seniors, some of whom we've had in our program since they were 2. So sitting with all of this, I asked, because this is kind of what we do now, AI, why transitions can be so hard. And so AI told me that it was because they involve major life changes that can cause us to evolve and feel vulnerable. The brain's natural drive for internal stability can react to uncertainty and change as a threat, which can change our hormonal balance and affect the way we think and feel. Transitions can also cause a perceived loss of control, which can lead to problematic behaviors, avoidance, or shutting down from responsibilities. So this is helpful if members of the public see any, like Roaring Fork School District staff members, including myself, exhibiting problematic behaviors or avoidance or shutting down. You know that we're just responding to all the transitions. But in seriousness, this is actually quite real, and our educators feel it viscerally, and our school community does as well. We even see stresses of transition on our students as they transition into summer. That can also cause challenging behaviors. And we feel it every year, and it still catches us by surprise. So I just want to take a moment to celebrate everyone who is hanging in there through all of these celebrations and transitions, through all the goodbyes, through all the heartbreaks and heartbursts, and really celebrate the folks who keep showing up for each other to hold space and help us navigate this season and end this school strong and steady. It is really special work we get to do in the Roaring Fork schools. And this time of year, we really feel the depth of connections in our school community. So that's it.
Thank you. The next business in order is a family survey and TLCC survey presentation from Chief Cook.
I see one and everything. Oh. Sorry. Great.
Hello, good evening, directors. The first presentation I'm going to do is on the family survey, and then I'm going to follow it up on the TLCC survey. So you're familiar with the family survey. This has been administered each year, at least for the time that we have our current strategic plan. And so the survey is really intended to gather feedback from families on how we are doing in following through on the commitments that were made in the strategic plan. So the key points of the survey, these were the sort of commitments that were created in the not the next stage of strategic plan, but our current one. And so all of the questions are really phrased to check that we're doing this. And so the pre-K to 12th grade parents were given the survey between March 4th and April 5th. We had lots of opportunities for parents to complete it through email reach outs or individual school communications. We had targeted school outreach. We had kiosks set up at parent teacher conferences. The way that it's set up is that each parent who participated, they were presented with one survey that had a couple links, one for the district and then one for each school that they have children in, that they have at least one child enrolled. And surveys were also available in English and Spanish. And so parents could select in which language they would like to complete the survey. A couple things here. The response rates are reported by the number of parents and guardians rather than the household. But all the parents, all of the first and second contacts in Infinite Campus are sent the survey. We don't collect demographic data of our parents. And so demographic data is actually based on the students rather than parents and guardians. But a real big highlight I want to point out is the increase in participation this year was pretty significant. So you can see across each year from 2019, the participation was between about 11 to 13.5% for the district, and then between 10.6% and about 15% for the district or for schools. And so we increased that to 23% for the district and 24.6% for schools. A big thank you goes out to our Family Resource Center liaisons who did a massive push to get the surveys completed. We had a lot of reminders, emails sent. We set a goal for at least 25% of completion from respondents. And so all of that helped, I think, get more data. In terms of the process, the district and school leaders, we did review the results in May. And then many of them also shared the results for their specific school with their schools, and we will post these publicly on the website this week. And then the schools and departments themselves did review in both their leadership teams and their school staffs, the results and what targeted questions they had set goals on in the beginning of the year and how they did. So a couple of bright spots in terms of the survey. There were increases in favorable responses almost in every category when we compared it to last year's administration. It's hard to tell if it's because we had more people respond and or if their experience is better, but I think it's a combination of both. The greatest increase when we looked at the district survey was in family engagement and communication. It was 4 percentage points up from last year. And the school survey was in learning opportunities. We do see that the data just show a higher positive perception from parents of Hispanic students as compared to parents of white students across the categories and key questions. In terms of areas for improvement, we have two. One, the family engagement and communication category itself had a really big improvement from 2023. The category is trending upward, but the actual number of perception of transparency about success and challenges in education, it has the lowest overall favorable percentage at 57%. So it's still an area that we want to make sure that we increase. And then for learning opportunities, the disaggregated data actually is where we want to identify an area for improvement. We have parents and guardians of the white students have a lower favorable perception than our parents and guardians of Hispanic students in that category. In terms of next steps for both learning challenges and family engagement, we do want to make sure that we're holding appropriate levels of rigor for all of our students and high expectations. Schools are following up with staff and in their own plans for next year and how targeted areas will continue to improve. And as a district, one of our priorities does include family engagement and making sure that we're really thoughtful and critically assessing how we're doing in terms of that communication piece. So the next one is a Teaching Learning Conditions Colorado survey. This is a survey that was actually initiated through House Bill 081384. And so Teaching Learning Conditions Colorado, it's statewide, it's anonymous, and it's administered to teachers, educational professionals, service providers, support persons, and school administrators every other year. It's in even number years starting from 2018. And in the off years, we administer the Panorama Staff Survey. So we did not administer a staff survey this year because they did the TLCC. This is the TLCC is a collaboration actually between Colorado Department of Education. They collaborate with CEI, the Colorado Education Initiative, Colorado Rural Schools Alliance, the League of Charter Schools, the Colorado Education Association, CASE, Panorama Education, and CASB. And so it's a collaborative effort from all those organizations. It is designed to give some policy research and policy implications and next steps, help school planning, help district planning as well, and have an opportunity to amplify the educator's voice. This was redesigned. It used to be called a TEL survey. It was redesigned to TLCC, started in 2018. So this is the 4th statewide administration for the state of Colorado and also for Roaring Fork schools. We do need to have, in order for schools and districts to get results, you need to have at least 50% participation. And so there are some districts across the state and schools that did not hit that. We did hit that. We had 79.7% of staff members participate. This was between January 24th and March 8th. And you can see the breakdown there. There were different sets of questions asked depending on your role. So if you're a brand new teacher or if you're a school leader, you might get asked a couple of different questions. Many of the questions were the same. In terms of the survey structure, there are 11 total categories. You can see the categories listed there. And there are a couple, in terms of the general reflection, we stayed flat, 88% in the overall question, the overall impressions of the school. And so in 2022, we hit 88%. We kept flat at that there. Compared to Colorado, the average is 83%, so we're a little bit higher than the average there. And when we're looking at the categories, we did score above state averages in 14 of the 17 categories. If you look in the first column, it shows the categories that had questions asked. That middle column is our favorable percent response for Roaring Fork School District. That middle compared to state of Colorado shows a favorable percentage there. So and then the last column shows what it was for Roaring Fork in 21-22. And where it shows NR, it's not recorded because these are new categories. So just let me look at it here. Support for student well-being teachers, staff evaluation, professional climate, support for own well-being, and support for staff leaders are new categories. The category actually new teacher and staff, which is highlighted in red, was a decrease in positive responses compared to the state. It was interesting when we dug into it. There was a significant dip in one question, which is to what extent do you meet with your mentor during a typical school week? And so the choices are great extent, moderate extent, limited extent, or not at all, or I don't know. And one thing we thought about is we actually assign mentors, formal mentors to our first year teachers between first and third, but teachers that are new to the district, but not in their first 3 years are assigned an advisor. But I believe they actually got those questions because they were classified as a new teacher in that school. And so that's not the only thing, and we're not going to excuse it away because we do want to make sure that we have consistency in terms of mentor support for our teachers. And then the highlight is in community support and involvement. There were increases in the positive responses there and compared to both the state and our 21-22 survey. A couple of things, our biggest identified needs for PD that were from the teacher responses were one, supporting students who have experienced trauma, supporting our emerging bilingual students, and then developing student social emotional skills. So we're taking that to think about how we're planning our PD offerings for the upcoming year. And then the biggest identified needs for PD from leaders is one, support for student social emotional and mental health, teacher mediation and coaching, and data-driven decision-making. And so for there, we're using that as information to plan out our sequence of leader-specific PD to make sure school leaders feel supported in those areas. And I'll open up for board discussion.
Thank you. We'll start with Director DeFreitas.
Thank you, Chief Park, for bringing this in tonight. I just want to say how much I appreciate that we find ways to incorporate data from multiple sources and that your next steps are clearly reflective of what we're seeing here, even when it might not be the numbers that you necessarily hope for. I was interested in a little more clarification around the new teacher staff lines. Obviously, those are ones that had the negative numbers. And I know that you said that that might have just been even a nomenclature issue between advisor and mentor. Was there more that you learned about what our new teachers are experiencing from this survey?
There are other questions that give us a little bit of that information, and our new teachers who participate in induction also frequently give feedback on how their experience is. We do have other questions. That was by far the biggest dip, a drop of 39 percentage points. Another one, to what degree do you feel you've received adequate support as a new teacher or staff member at the school? Had a dip of 10 percentage points. So we have 74% respond favorably. And then have you been assigned a formal mentor this school year? Went up 10 percentage points. And so that's great. But one of the things that we do that is lacking actually in the TLCC is open-ended comments. And so we do rely on additional other information, such as feedback that we get from new teachers to help us understand what's helpful for them and not. We use that to also inform how we're planning for new teacher orientation that we run at the start of the school year.
And then do you have just that quick snapshot of disaggregated response data from our parents? I know that the Hispanic parents had the jump in perception that was higher, but do you know what it was and how many actually filled out the survey?
How many filled
Yeah.
out the survey?
Yeah. It was broken down.
I think it was in the link I sent you all in the
46,
update.
54.
The total, I have the total number, but I have to get, I don't want to make up
I'm
numbers.
pretty sure it was 46% Latino and 54% non-Latino.
Oh, okay.
It's on that second document. That's like-
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, actually
we
in
go.
the middle.
Good to know.
Thank you.
No further comment.
Director Tyler.
Just as a little bit of a follow-up on Director DeFreitas' question, Chief Park, my question to you is there any kind of like follow-up that you do at the end of year with new teachers, like have some kind of like survey that you give them, or like what kind of things do we need to know? Because I mean, this is from the TLLC and it's telling you sort of like some areas, but is there some kind of things that you're specifically getting feedback from the new teachers?
It's a follow-up step to make sure that we do from induction. Induction itself has ended, the formal sessions, but that is something that we do plan to get from teachers in also their induction experience and their support experience overall. This is something that we did discuss as an instructional team a few weeks ago to dig into and better understand where these numbers are coming from. And so there's some steps there that came out of that.
Then my other question is on that family survey.
Mhm.
First of all, it was great to see such positive results and that they all seem to be going up in the categories. That's really great. Good work on that. I have a question about especially the part that said foster a culture of trust and respect amongst stakeholders. And I'm curious if you have any follow-up data on why that was like 66%. So that just means like 1/3 of the people maybe think that there isn't that trust of culture of trust, and 2/3 think there is. Is there any work being done to try to, and still it maybe was on par with what the state type thing is, but is there thoughts on what is causing that number to be where it's at? Am I making sense with my question?
You are. And I'm
Okay.
trying to, what I was actually trying to look for is how many were in the somewhat well, like the categories are, very well, quite well, somewhat well, slightly, or not well at all.
Uh-huh.
It actually, like, even having any not well at all is not great, or below that. I think this is something that I don't want to make up, and I do want to actually better learn and understand to know what this. where
Great.
this
And I don't
coming
think my
from.
question, so, and I maybe said my question wrong. And like, I don't necessarily like want to put you on the spot and say, like, what is it? Like,
Mhm.
I'm just more, my question is this something we're looking into and digging into and trying to find out
For sure.
why and do something about?
Yeah, and I think that goes into how we're engaging and partnering with families. I think that I don't want to say this is not a surprise. It's something with intention that we've named as something that we do want to improve in. The work to improve that. I think it aligns to actually specific, if we want to refine the question to better understand that and get more information from this. I think that's one of the ways we could do that with intention. In short, yes, we do want to know more about why this is the experience or feeling from the people who have filled this out.
And is there some kind of like idea that the district is doing when you get this information back to then like try to come up with your own surveys for the parents to like get more information back from them, or is this the information enough?
I think it's more at the schools, like in the conversations, getting more anecdotal information, I think is, I don't know. I mean, there's survey fatigue. We certainly hear from, I think there are other ways to get the information that isn't necessarily a survey, but certainly something we're going to follow up on.
All right, thank you.
And I would only add to that, Director Tyler, that some of our strategic work is really around, right? We knew from our strategic plan that we needed to strengthen our partnerships with families. And so there's a bunch of work that's going to kick off next year in terms of developing a family partnering toolkit, right? That's going to name best practices with really this at the root cause of what we're trying to address is how do we have more collaborative, transparent, trusting relationships with families in support of their kids' learning and growth. And so I do think there's a lot of work that's going to continue to grapple with these questions and try to really get to kind of root cause and then how do we build solutions in our practices.
Thank you. Director After.
Great, thanks. I'm glad you brought up survey fatigue. I'm glad that the participation rate is increasing steadily over time. It's still kind of low. And so I wonder to what extent, if we really prioritize the surveys that are super important as a district, that would enable us to get good results on the ones that truly matter. Were there any surprises for you in the results of the family survey?
That's a good question. I don't think there was anything surprising just because we had closely monitored from last year and previous years
Mhm.
and thought about the intentional ways we were working to improve areas this year. There's a lot of categories here. And so when we're thinking, you know, around the climate, family engagement, communication, the resources, it is nice to see, I will say that there's at least a marginal increase in every area. And it is still confirming that we have work to do, which is why we worked it into our strategic plan for next year in terms of partnerships.
Can you give an example, like a really specific example of how a school would use the results from the family survey and change something about what's happening in the school based on that?
Sure. If a school at the end of last year actually took their family survey from last year and identified a couple of key questions, and then tactical ways that they would improve that this year, whether it's culling regular feedback from families in a survey, like how are we doing? That comes out occasionally in different months in the family newsletter. What could be changed? What could be better? And responding to it. That's one of the intentional ways that a school has named. We want to improve in our communication. Here's one of the ways that we're doing it. Let us know what's going well and what's not, and here's how we're responding to it. So it might be that tactic there as one example.
Okay, great, thanks. On the teacher survey, the TLCC, I noticed I did kind of a deep dive in the results that you linked to in the memo from the previous, the Panorama surveys. I noticed that the TLCC survey surveys charter school teachers, but the ones that are linked online don't. So I was just wondering if in
The
general.
TLCC survey?
Mhm. Yeah, charter schools are listed, the CCS and Two Rivers are listed in the state dashboard results, but the Panorama surveys from previous years don't seem to survey the charter schools. Is that right?
When you say Panorama, you're talking about the staff survey.
Mhm.
Two Rivers joined for the first time last year. They should have been included in the staff survey. I believe, I have to check that they got it. But if it was TLCC, that was 2 years ago. They
Mm,
wouldn't be.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying when you look at our website,
Mhm.
the Panorama Education Staff Survey from 2023 doesn't include charter school teacher results, teacher surveys. And so I don't know if that's, but the TLCC survey does. So it was good to see those results. And so I'm just wondering if when we do the off-year surveys of teachers,
Uh-huh.
if we survey charter school teachers, or if it's just not listed on the website for some reason.
It might not be listed on the website, but
I can send you a link to where I'm looking,
yeah,
but I think we should.
we definitely have a staff survey for Two Rivers.
Okay.
Oh, hold on, sorry. That was student surveys. Yes, I mean, I will look into it because all the schools that took it should have them up there.
Okay.
They should be up there.
Good. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Director Ramirez?
Thank you, Chief Park. I wanted to ask, do we capture language spoken at home or just ethnicity? Like primary language spoken at home on these surveys?
Not separately in these surveys. The surveys go to
Sorry, for the family.
for the family. I think the families select the language, but I don't think that language at home is a specific question on the survey.
Is that something that we would be able to add to the survey or no?
I don't know, actually. I mean, we have some flexibility in how the questions that we determine for the survey through Panorama.
Okay.
In terms of the demographic information, I think they have some suggestions on that, but we don't capture separate demographic information for the parents and guardians who complete the survey.
Yeah, I just think, especially just thinking of our school district, it might be worth us starting to capture primary language spoken at home. Because as we know, our district is changing. So, and then I wanted to follow up and ask, you mentioned attributing some of the growth and participation to the Family Resource Center, the liaisons. Aside, well, one, if you could share a little bit more of how we were able to structure and use that team for the surveys. But two, was there anything else that we're going to be trying or implementing moving forward to continue that growth?
Yeah, I mean, it was with the Family Resource Center, they did have an intentional push because we knew what we wanted to complete, but there was also, Betsy, maybe you've gotten many annoying emails, reminders every day for a long time until it's completed. And that hadn't been done before. I think folks got one email, a request, and then that was it. Survey window was open for a month. We sent a reminder email about 2 weeks out, and then in the last week, I think it was every day until it was completed. And so that hadn't been done before, and that's new. It's hard to, that is one major new thing. I think the family liaisons had consistently in the past been really instrumental in getting completion before. So we definitely want to continue that as well, especially for folks who might be bombarded with a lot of emails, but have a touch point with the liaisons.
Awesome. And then just looking at those numbers for the family engagement and communication, climate resources, you know, as mentioned, we noticed an increase with the strategic plan that we just approved with everything, you know, in the coming months and years that we're looking forward to. What is the increase that we're hoping to achieve?
Do you mean in which particular metric? Or which question?
On the meeting our district commitments, climate, family engagement, communication, and resources.
This actually, with our strategic plan, we actually want to review all of the questions to confirm and actually revise some of them to make sure it's tightly aligned. And so it wouldn't necessarily be like this question is the one that we want. I think there will be a lot of similarities because it's still about partnering. But we'll have a clearer sense of all those questions in the fall as we review our current questions, our current strategic plan, and think about the questions that we want to include in the survey.
And that will be for the district and the school surveys?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much.
I just have a couple other questions. Response rates for the school survey, was that roughly even across schools, or were there some schools where you had a much higher response rate and others where there was a lower response rate? Just curious if parents like younger kids are more actively engaged versus older kids, or if it's all over the place.
I included that actually in the link that I sent you. Yep, it has the total. It doesn't have the percentage, but has the total responses. And so it's actually, I didn't put the percentages, but I could. We did, I'd have to put the percentages, but there's a range for sure. And with,
Sorry, where's the link?
in the board update from last week.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I can look at that.
Okay.
And then with that, I'm just curious if we're providing any district support to admin about how to utilize these, kind of following up on Director After's question.
Mhm.
So obviously this is really useful data. And so is there any,
Yeah, it's typically happening in our one-on-one check-ins with, that I have with the leaders, plus that Joel has with the leaders.
okay,
Yep.
great. And then my last question was just obviously, and I looked back, it seems like the much greater increase for the district responses because it was a much lower baseline for the district response.
It is. And you know, the lower, the 11-ish%, I think had been pretty standard when we asked Panorama, is this typical? Said yes. Like, well, would they be hiring? And so, I don't think there had been the intentional push, that like super intentional push that we did last year, and thought really creatively about what are the ways in which we could really increase that. I think actually the highest in recent history was the COVID year. And part of that was also because of a massive push by liaisons to get it. And so that felt, if you look at the slide, from the historical participation, you'll see in 2020, like 13.6 and 17.6 was considered an anomaly, but like we could actually have that. That's lower than what we could actually get by pestering families because we want to know what they're thinking.
And I can't remember, I took them, but were they at the same time and then you finished one and then went straight into the other one, or did I have to click two links? I
No,
don't
so
remember.
you get one email and you
Yeah.
say, complete your surveys here. It takes you to a link that shows all the surveys. So it has one for the district and then one for each school in which you have at least one child
And
enrolled.
was that new this year, that structure?
I don't know if it was new. That was my understanding that it's been like that. I do think that we had a lot less people actually clicking into the survey.
Okay. That was all I had. So we'll go into 5 minutes of open board discussion. If anybody has anything else to ask, any other comments?
I just wanted to point out a win that we kind of moved through quickly because there's so much to cover. I think it says the greatest increase on the district survey was in the category of family engagement communication, up 4 points from last year. That's a tremendous accomplishment, and it does not happen by accident. That's staff hours, blood, sweat, and tears. And Jonathan's been Chief Landon's been a big part of that, and we really appreciate it. And I hope that that number continues the upward trend because I think it goes a long way to helping support students and educators when a community feels engaged and behind them. So thank you for that work.
Anything else from the board? Thank you, Chief Park.
Thanks.
At this time, we welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There are 4 speakers signed up tonight. The board allots 45 minutes for public comment. To respect the time of all who are present, speakers are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. We ask you to be thoughtful and constructive with your comments, and thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. Members of the public who wish to share their views with the board may always do so in writing at any time. For this evening's public comment, we received 4 written comments. Our first speaker is Adriana Cabrera. Not here. Okay. Our next speakers are Kevin and Janae Jokum.
We're here tonight to present a situation regarding enrollment for the fall of 2024 for Roaring Fork High School. We received an email explaining how Roaring Fork High School could not accept Clutch, our son, for attendance. I will begin by explaining a bit of history. Both Kevin and I were raised in Redstone and Carbondale. We both attended Carbondale schools and graduated from Roaring Fork High School. My roots go back over 100 years. You can only imagine how many ties we have here. Furthermore, our children's roots are in Carbondale. Even though Clutch has attended Marble Charter School, that should not negate him the opportunity to make this major transition without the peers he has grown up with. The kids at Marble Charter School are a tight-knit group. I would have never imagined we would be told our children aren't accepted in our hometown school. Historically, Roaring Fork High School has always accepted students from feeder schools and even students from different towns as far as Rifle. To be clear, we live closer to Carbondale than we do Glenwood Springs. We are so close to the attendance boundary that this should be taken into consideration. Moreover, this attendance boundary is arbitrary. In other words, it's based on random lines for no reason. Another fact, when Kevin was attending Roaring Fork High School, he lived in the same house we live in today. It has been made clear to me that there are many more students within the attendance boundary enrolled for next year, and they are mandated to be granted a spot. This is completely understandable. However, I don't understand why the district is not prepared for these numbers. The trend for the past 4 years has increased, and with all the statistical reports, you should anticipate this situation and have a solution in place to provide education for all of our children. This is your responsibility. Just like race, gender, and socioeconomics, we cannot discriminate. We feel that this situation could become reckless in a similar manner. Moreover, Clutch's brother is enrolled as CMS. This will create a commuting strain on our family. There's no bus system from our house either way. If Clutch is uprooted from his peers, we're concerned of his mental well-being. And as I stated before, we have many strong connections in Carbondale. This is our home. Ultimately, from the chatter I hear from other parents in the same boat, the district needs to anticipate the number of students who could be enrolling before it's too late, causing these hardships on our families. I ask that you put yourselves in our shoes as a parent. What if you were told your child cannot attend the school in the community you have lived in your whole life? Imagine having one child in one town and the other child in another town. Now put yourself in the shoes of the child. Imagine what it would feel like being torn from your peers and you were told you cannot go to high school with them. Imagine being so excited to go to high school, but then you were told you can't go. Clutch is feeling so defeated. I do not know how to explain to him that this is okay because it's not. You as the board have the power to change this administrative decision. I implore you to find a solution to make space for our son to attend Roaring Fork High School. And Kevin and I are willing to meet face to face for a discussion.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys want to see, but I printed this. So you can see her lip. How close we are to the attendance boundary.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
We don't engage during the board meeting, but you're welcome to send us an email if you'd like to meet one-on-one. We're happy to set that up.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lisa Dameron.
Greetings, directors. I'm here to express the gratitude of all teachers in the Roaring Fork School District for your participation and agreement on our collaborative bargaining contract. We are joining only 20% of Colorado school districts in the group of districts that have a collaborative bargaining agreement. This contract solidifies a 20+ year IBB process. It creates a labor management committee. It clarifies and codifies a robust grievance due process just cause clause for teacher discipline. It includes a time agreement. It starts a robust discussion on academic freedom, and it grants special service providers with non-probationary status. So thank you so much for your efforts in this process. I'd also like to say thank you for your work on the Meadowood housing development. The lottery recently happened, and my own mentee received a studio apartment, and he is one of the high-quality teachers that we talk about retaining. So thank you for allowing him a place to live. Salary and housing are important for teachers, but so is respect. So thank you for putting a ring on it, and please join us later after the meeting at Carbondale Beer Works to celebrate.
Thank you. The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes from our previous board meeting, policies and regulations HA, HC, HD, HH, HL, HO, IHAM, IHAM-R, ADD, and GBEB, and a new salary schedule for certified staff. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off of the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote?
I'd like to pull the H policies.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda without the H policies?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling H policies.
A second.
Can you please call the vote?
Director Kuhlenberg.
Aye.
Director DeFreitas.
Aye.
Director Teitler.
Aye.
Director Apter.
Aye.
Director Ramirez.
Aye.
Directors, you've just approved the consent agenda. The next business in order is a separate discussion and vote on the H policies, and we'll start with Director Ramirez.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to pull H policies. As you community might have already heard, we are approving a CBC today that we are a collective bargaining agreement that this board has worked very hard to see through. And I think I really wanted to pull H policies because when there was a change on HC that I wanted to read out loud, but I also just wanted to credit the work of the team that went through these policies, these new policies that were created, to really give us a scope of bargaining. The language that we did add to HC was the rights of employees other than supervisory employees may form, join, or assist in any labor organization for the purpose of collective bargaining through a representative chosen by the employees without interference, restraint, or coercion. Employees also have the right to refuse to form, join, or assist any labor organization. Rights of the district, which is the employer. The district shall not enter into any collective bargaining agreement that limits its ability to implement best practices demonstrated by research to promote positive student outcomes, particularly for students from historically marginalized groups. And I just wanted to, again, to appreciate the teams, all of the staff that took time to make these policies come to fruition. And I look forward to approving our H section policies.
Thank you. Director DeFreitas.
I'm very grateful for the support and the work of the board, policy committee, and the RFCEA in conversation. And I think that these policies are both historic and important, pardon me, for our district going forward. And I'm glad to see them codified today.
Dr. Tyler.
I just similar to what Director DeFreitas said. So thank you.
Dr. After.
Okay, what are we voting on here?
Each policy.
Just the H
separately.
policies, not,
Mhm.
not the CBC.
No,
Okay,
just-
okay, that's separate. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Threw me for a loop there. So that's great. I don't have any other comments.
I don't have anything specific other than the same appreciations for all the work that was put into this and ensuring that we put this foundation in place for this board and group as we're entering into the first CBC, but also for future boards and groups, and the effort that we made to be forward thinking and to head on address issues that may come up in the future and have a system in place to look at those is much appreciated. And I'm grateful that we took the time to do it. So we'll now have 5 minutes of open discussion if anybody has anything else. Can you please call the vote, Chief Landon? Wait, do I have a
Director,
motion? Sorry, do I have a motion to approve the H policies?
I make the motion to approve the H policies.
Is there a second?
I second.
No, please call the vote.
Director DeFreitas.
Aye.
Director Tyler,
Aye.
Director After,
Hi.
Director Ramirez.
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg.
Aye. Directors, you've just approved the H policies. The next business in order is discussion on policy IHBIB. We'll jump
Sorry,
right-
do we need to also vote on the consent agenda? though?
we already did.
We just did that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sorry, the next business in order is discussion on policy IHBIB. Each board member will have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions, and we have Dr. Cole up to answer any of those questions. We'll begin with Director Tyler.
The only thing I have to say is thank you for during our work session, the information that I got that clarified the question that I did have there. And I'm just glad to see the part that was being struck, that we do have something in place to continue to look at those marginalized students. So thank you.
Director After.
I don't have any additional questions or comments.
Director Ramirez.
I also don't have any additional questions or comments.
Director DeFreitas.
Just again, a thanks to the staff for being patient and thorough while navigating very difficult state level, new, quickly rolled out program, which has funding, but you have to walk a very, very fine line and take a lot of strange turns at the last minute to get there. But recognizing the good that that will do, especially for our disadvantaged communities and students who might not otherwise be able to access early childhood education. This is so critical. So thank you for your patience and your dedication to it.
I also don't have anything further. I'm appreciative of the time and effort that's been put into this policy, and specifically appreciative of you, Chief Landon, for catching and flagging these policies that need to be consistently updated. Seems mundane, but we all know how important it is. So we'll now move to 5 minutes of open board discussion. If there's anything else to add on IHBIB? Don't see anything else. This is the second of 3 reads, so we don't take action, but we will take action at our next board meeting to approve this policy. Thank you. The next business in order is the presentation from Chief Markham on the 2024-2025 budget and board discussion. There is not action tonight. This is first read.
Director Kuhlenberg. Action, I have a presentation, just an opening statement, and then we'll get to your discussion and questions. Tonight marks the introduction of the 2024-25 budget for Roaring Fork School District. In addition to tonight, there will be a second reading on June 12th and a final reading and adoption on June 26th. The presented budget has over $124 million of revenue and expenditures and an appropriation approaching $200 million. $96 million is budgeted for the general fund alone, the district's primary operating budget. And of that 96 million, 15 million is transferred to other funds to cover necessary items such as capital maintenance and upgrades, insurance payments, early childhood programs, and support for district authorized charters. The primary source of revenue flows from the Colorado School Finance Act, which is passed each year by the state legislature. The formula used to fund public education in Colorado was changed this year to be more student-centric while also honoring district characteristics. The new formula will begin implementation in the 2025-26 budget cycle and will be phased in over 6 years. The per pupil revenue from that School Finance Act for the upcoming year is $12,171, an increase of 8.4% over the current year. Local revenue is budgeted to be $75 million, a substantial increase over the prior years, and it's due to skyrocketing property values. While local funding has increased, the school finance formula dictates that the state support falls by a nearly equal amount. This results in local taxpayers paying more, but not necessarily getting more, a truly frustrating situation for all of us. In the first year of the newly adopted strategic plan, the district will put nearly $1.6 million towards strategic priorities such as continuing the learning acceleration plan investments, newly immigrated student supports, and mental health. Enrollment is expected to be slightly growing next year, which would buck the statewide trends of declining enrollment. The current projections are for 5,715 pupils to be served, including district authorized charters. School district budgets provide for a wide range of operations: classroom instruction and intervention, English language learner support, health services, student transportation, maintenance and cleaning of facilities and grounds, special education, whole child support for our most vulnerable attendees, human resources, finance, accounting, technology, and meal service. I'm continually amazed at the depth and breadth of services offered by our district. It's no small undertaking, and it is thanks to all the school leaders and department heads that this budget is able to be produced. I'd like to thank them for their hard work and the thought they put into this process. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. So Director Actor, we'll start with you. This round. Questions, comments?
Thanks. We talked at length in Finance Committee and then in the work session earlier today about different ways of showing the board the budget information so that for me personally, it'll be helpful to understand like the big broad categories of the board's priorities and what the costs and commitment and investment is associated with each of those. So looking forward to seeing that to the extent that you can provide it, knowing that you're to some extent constrained with the way that the state funds are accounted for. So I won't get into too many super detailed questions now because I think there's a lot of work ahead over the next month as we work through it. I did have a question, and this might be partly a question for you, Dr. Cole, that the parents who came and spoke earlier in this meeting kind of spurred on for me, which is we as a board and with the leadership team have talked a lot about the changing size of the schools. We're adding, I think you mentioned earlier, 30 students, projected to add like 30 students in the district. So not a ton, but like it's clear to me that the population of each community is in flux, right? And it's more variable. So how do we do long-term planning around the size of schools? Those of us who live in Carbondale know that Carbondale is growing. Our main high school is maybe at capacity. Like that's the message we got from some members of the public today, but I think we're also experiencing that if we live here in this town. We're also hearing messages that Basalt is shrinking, likely due to the cost of living in Basalt in particular. So What is our plan for what's the strategy for long-term planning when it comes to budgeting? Knowing that we have an obligation to provide, for all these students to be in their community. And I don't think we want to be forcing kids to go outside of their community for school. And that's really a budget question.
Yeah, I mean, it is a budget question, right? Because our budget is so dependent on our kids and where our kids are. Yeah, I think you named the context really well in terms of what we're seeing, where we're seeing declining enrollments in some places and rising in others. It feels really inconsistent. When we even think about like some of our housing strategy and enrollment strategies, we're definitely looking at projections. And I can tell you that, and Chief Markin can speak a little bit to it, but we look, and especially in finance, look at student enrollment counts a lot and look at numbers a lot. I know that Chief Baumfalk was meeting this week with demographers, thinking about some of our land usage and whether we'd actually need some of the land that we have for schools in the future, and trying to keep our finger on the pulse of that. And so we have talked, and maybe Chief Markham, you can speak more about this, about doing like more deliberate, intentional demographic work that's really tailored to our interests. So it's been on the table in terms of discussions. We don't have anything concrete right now, but it is something that we definitely monitor and track and try to look for trends and patterns, because it is dynamic, and it also is additionally, it's influenced by our neighbors. And so what happens in Aspen has a strong impact on Basalt. What happens in RE2, Newcastle, Rifle, and Silt also has an impact on what enrollment. So it's internal and it's external. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Chief.
I think you hit the nail on the head working with the demographer. I think the last time it was done was prior to the bond vote in 2015, trying to understand future trends. So it's been about 10 years. So it's about time to do that again. And that will definitely inform future decisions.
Director Ramirez.
Thank you. And I think, so, we did have the work session, and I think that this is really the first opportunity that we've had as a team to be able to ask some budgetary questions. And even looking at the budget today on the general fund expenditures for 2024, 2025, there's some changes from our 23-24 budget that are either in like $1 million in change from the previous school year budget. And then there's some that we're giving back money. We're gaining money back because we've decided to budget under. And so I think my ask is, when we come back to having the opportunity to go over the budget, it would be really important for us to understand why we shifted so big. Because we do have some that we forecasted, like professional services for instruction at 585, and we've spent $1 million in that as of right now, as of this receiving this. So I just think it would be helpful for us as board members to understand where that money was put to. And I'm sure it's an expense that, like we mentioned, I think in the work session, there was another one where it was people services that might have gone to SPED. And I think all of that information is super important, but I think some of these have such drastic shifts in numbers that it would be important for us to be able to understand why we are budgeting so drastically from our last year's budget. So it's more of a statement than a question. So sorry. Thank you.
Director DeFreitas.
Echoing Director After's comment, a lot of the questions were addressed in the workshop, and I do think that more will be discussed on some finer level details. And I look forward to the staff narrative sort of bringing our attention to using this budget as a tool to reflect the values of the board and the district, so that both the community and us as directors are able to understand how we can impact our schools in the best possible way without necessarily getting lost in the line items. And I think that'll be very helpful to us. And then looking forward to continued input from the community as we move into the next budget cycle as well.
Director Tyler.
Echoing a little bit with what Director DeFrady said. I appreciate how we're looking at putting some of our budget towards our strategic investments. And I think that's a really positive move that we're doing and saying that budget's going to align with what we believe as our priorities. And with that said, I appreciate very much that we are doing stuff around mental health support, that we're doing summer credit recovery for high schoolers, CTE funding. I think those are very important steps for us to be implementing and also giving money towards newly immigrated students. And so those new line items, I very much appreciate that's part of the budget. I also want to say thank you to Chief Markham for all the work that was taken to put into this. And I like the Google Doc idea for asking questions. It will allow me, instead of asking all these questions I have, as I did go through the budget, to be able to put that into a document and be able to get feedback there. And so I appreciate that also. And along with the narrative that you wrote up that explains some of those reasons, which has answered some of the questions I had already. So I just like that we are, as a district, looking beyond what we do now and looking to try to do things to move us in the direction that we want to go. And I think that's important in our budget. So thank you.
I too appreciate all the work that has gone into this. I really liked the shift in breaking things down to per pupil dollars for everything that's coming out of the general fund. I think that's helpful and a helpful way to think about things and keep it really student focused. I think that Director After's point about demographics is something we've talked about before, and I would encourage the district to continue that work. Our budget is dependent on our pupil count, and so knowing and understanding the number of students that we likely have is super important. And our valley is so unique that we're not necessarily going to follow national trends all the time. So I just wanted to flag that. I'll put specific questions into the tracker. So I think that that's a great and more appropriate venue for getting those answered and understanding that that will be available for everybody to look at. Are there any other questions, comments from the board? An open discussion?
So just to clarify on this new tracker, that'll be available to the public to see? Or
Just to kind of get some of the, questions from the board. That's open to the board around how is this number being created, those sorts of things. Big items that are flagged by the board, certainly put into a narrative, but hopefully the narrative explains, here's where the dollars are going, here's how they're aligned with district priorities. That'd be the key of the narrative.
And then is your question about what's publicly available?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is obviously because we're a public institution. Are we going to post this?
right. But how would
The budget will be posted on the website and it'll be flagged at the top of the website. It's like the top topic of interest. We can certainly link this if we want to. I don't think there's harm in it.
Yeah, it just feels like since we're using that track, like an online
Mhm.
form as a venue for asking questions that we could otherwise ask here,
Yeah.
then it feels like that should be publicly available.
Are we in our 5 minutes?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
On what is it, page 13, you have a yellow budget 2024 fund line item Excel sheet. Is that a document we're supposed to be able to see?
Oh, no, that's just kind of like my working document that has my billions of numbers that I use to summarize here, so that shouldn't have printed. I mean, every sheet you see here has 10 sheets behind it that feed in and capture data, so that can be summarized. And that was just my reminder that that one is done in Excel.
I would just try to ask one more question about the bond redemption fund and that beginning fund balance. Am I understanding it correctly that we have that large beginning fund balance that we carry over from year to year because of the property taxes that don't come in, and that's needed to cover those while the property taxes are coming in?
So we make a single principal payment every December, and we make interest payments every June and December. And so what you're seeing is basically we've collected the majority of the property taxes authorized by the board by June. That will all go out the door, or most of it will go out the door in December, and then we start to collect again. So you're basically seeing it like between collecting money and then redeeming debt. So if you were to see a monthly balance, you would see, maybe $100,000 at the end of December, and then it gradually builds its way up. We see huge increases in March through June, because that's when we collect the majority of property taxes, which pay for debt. And then those collections fall off, and then there's a big payment, which reduces our balance back to roughly $100,000 at the end of December.
So Director After, we'll follow up about linking the,
Thanks.
and if you guys want to have that discussion in Finance Committee,
Oh, that's a good idea.
that's fine. I think that would be an appropriate place to tack it on and talk through that. Or if it needs to come back to Dr. Cole or Chief Markham, we'll resolve that and figure out what we're gonna link.
Sounds good.
Any other questions, comments? This is like time on budget. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
The next business in order is action on the contract for Superintendent Anna Cole. Do I have a motion to approve the contract for Superintendent Cole?
I make a motion to approve the contract for Dr. Anna Cole.
Is there a second?
I second.
We'll now move to 2 minutes for each board member and then 5 minutes of open discussion. We'll start with Director Ramirez.
Thank you to Director Kuhlenberg for the work, as well as Dr. Cole for the work on working on this contract. We are obviously grateful for all of the leadership that has gone on in the meantime as we've worked to finalize this agreement. And more than anything, I think that the community sometimes doesn't know the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes in this process. And so thank you to both of you for the extra dedication to seeing this through.
Director DeFreitas.
Yeah, similar to Director Ramirez, thank you for the work that has gone into this throughout the entire process. And thank you, Dr. Cole, for signing on and signing up for 3 years. We really look forward to having you help lead our district and supporting you as best we can.
Director Tyler.
The same thing, that thank you, Director Kuhlenberg, for all of your time with this contract, and just at the same time for all the extra work that you do as chair that goes along with it. The hours that you put in is so much, and I'm very appreciative of that time. And officially, maybe if this makes it official, Dr. Cole, welcome to your position.
Director After.
I will say my thanks to everyone too. I just want to clarify why the date on the contract is April 24th.
The hope was to have it on the agenda on April 20th.
Okay, but that's okay. We can backdate. It's fine. Okay, just want to make sure we
Yep.
have a legal document here. Great, thanks for the clarification, and thanks for all of your leadership. Looking forward to working with you.
And I also want to thank you, Dr. Cole, for jumping into this role, and being able to work with you over the last 9 months has been a pleasure, and also a massive task, as we know, right? This is tough, big work, but having someone who is dedicated and willing to put in the hours and just the level of commitment that you have to these communities and this district is incredible. So I'm immensely grateful for you stepping into this role. I also wanted to thank the community for their participation throughout the process. It feels like it was ages ago now, but the superintendent hiring process was shifted in some marked ways based on community feedback. And I think that it's important that we recognize that there were a lot of people that took time to participate, and the board really valued their input, valued their participation, their involvement, and really feel like this process was a community process, and we hope that they feel the same So I wanted to take a moment to thank them as well. With that, we can move to 5 minutes of open discussion. If anyone has anything else to add? Okay, seeing nothing, can you please call the vote, Chief Landon?
Director Titler,
Yes.
Director After,
Aye.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Cole. All right, back to business. The next business in order is action on a resolution in support of graduation attire policy alignment with House Bill 24-1323. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution in support of graduation attire policy alignment with HB 24-1323?
I move that the board approve the resolution in support of graduation attire policy alignment with HB 24-1323 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll now move to 2 minutes of discussion, starting with Director DeFreitas.
I'm sorry that this had to be a statewide legislative action to make it happen, and I'm glad we are resolved to support it.
Thank you. Director Tyler.
I would just like to say, I think it's great that we're saying that cultural or religious significance is something that we support in graduation. So I think that's a move. And even though perhaps we have always supported that, I like that it's officially on the book saying that that is something that we're behind and that we support. So yes.
Director After.
I don't have any other comments.
Director Ramirez.
Well, I want to say that to Director Tytler's comment, I got to meet a family at LAD, a Basalt family who expressed that they had been one of the families who weren't able to wear a sash with a flag of Mexico a couple years back. And so I was very proud, and I've been very proud to be able to be on the committee for HB 24-1323. I think that I'm very proud that the school district is passing a resolution in support so that we can have alignment. And I appreciate the opportunity, not just working with our team, but with our community to make sure that this is something that we put into statement, into policy, that it's a value that we hold. So I appreciate the work that was done on the front end, and I appreciate the work that's going to be done moving forward from our district in support of this.
And I want to thank you, Director Ramirez, for your work on getting this resolution in place and being proactive and clearly solidifying our district's position in regards to this House bill. And I want to also thank Voces Unidas for their work on getting this House bill passed and ensuring that this policy is in place, not just here, but in districts statewide, because as of next year, it's my understanding that every district has to adopt this policy. So I'm very appreciative, and I'm happy to get this resolution on the books ahead of graduations this coming weekend. So thank you for your effort to get that done and get it done quickly and get it on our agenda this week. Do we have any other questions, comments from the board?
Did have one. I wanted to mention that I also want to give gratitude to the new VP of Policy, Angelina Sierra Sandoval at Voces Unidas, who did work with me on this document to make sure that it was aligned to HB. And so I just wanted to give that appreciation to their team as well for, being able to provide feedback on this document as well.
Thank you. Anything else? Please call the vote.
Director After,
Aye.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Titler.
Aye.
Motion passes. Would you like to read it, Director?
Oh,
Ramirez?
yes. Thank you. Oops. Resolution in support of graduation attire policy alignment with HB 24-1323. Whereas according to our mission statement, Roaring Fork Schools will ensure that every student develops the enduring knowledge, skills, and character to thrive in a changing world. And whereas our community commitments state that our schools will create safe and caring environments, and that our schools will foster a culture of trust and respect among all stakeholders. And whereas public schools and school districts in Colorado are subject to all federal and state laws and constitutional provisions prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race, color, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, transgender status, religion, national origin, ancestry, age, marital status, pregnancy status, veteran status, or disability. And whereas the Colorado legislature recently passed HB 24-1323, which allows students in preschool, K through 12 public schools and public colleges and universities to wear objects of cultural or religious significance as adornments and at graduation ceremonies. And whereas HB 24-1323 protects the rights of students to express their cultural and religious identities during graduation while ensuring a dignified and orderly ceremony. Now therefore be it resolved that the Roaring Fork School Board supports the principles outlined in HB 24-1323, and be it further resolved that the superintendent is directed to develop and implement a policy on graduation attire that adheres to the guidelines established in HB 24-1323. And be it further resolved that the policy apply to all graduation ceremonies from kindergarten through higher education within the Roaring Fork School District's jurisdiction. And be it further resolved that the policy be communicated effectively to students, staff, and families well in advance of the 2024-2025 graduation season.
Thank you. All right, the next business in order is action on the collaborative bargaining contract. Do I have a motion to approve the collaborative bargaining contract?
I move that the board approve the collaborative bargaining contract, CBC.
Is there a second?
I second.
We'll now have 2 minutes discussion and then 5 minutes of open discussion. We'll begin with Director Tyler. Sure. Come on up. You want to come up? Thank you all for being here. We're excited.
So I would just say, first of all, great job to everybody who was involved in this. And I know it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of long hours by many people. And so, first of all, I guess I would like to thank the RFCEA for pushing us as a district to get this going. And I would like to thank Dr. Kohler and her administration for being willing to work to do this. I would like to thank the board members who really worked to put this in motion, especially Director Kuhlenberg. So much of the H policies that you formatted and put into process so this process could take place, but just many people who put in a lot of work outside of their regularly scheduled work to make this all happen. And I think it was a lot of give and take between people. And I appreciate everybody's effort. And I just think it is in the best interest of teachers. And that is why I think we feel good about this happening, because that trickles down to the kids, the children, the students getting what's best for them. And so I think happy teachers make happy students. So I'm glad we got this done.
Thank you. Director After?
I'm curious if you all think that this will serve as a recruiting and retention tool to any extent, and if so, how?
I think there's so many good things that are baked into the contract right now. And it's definitely an attraction piece for people. I know myself personally, when I came to the district, I immediately emailed Rob and I asked for the copy of the contract, and we did not have one. I think it's valuable because it has everything that a teacher can expect. And I think that's just a symbol of like how they're going to be treated. And it's showing that they will be treated with respect. And I think they know they're coming into a workplace where that's where their expectations are. And I think that's a big retention
and attraction.
I would add, I think that it also will help recruit and retain because it outlines processes for teacher voice. And establishes those protocols. And we know that the teachers who are engaged with their association are also very much engaged in what's happening in their buildings and what's happening elsewhere in the district. And so I think teachers who value having that voice will definitely be attracted to the Roaring Fork School District with this contract.
Great, thanks. Well, this is your moment, so I won't use my time for any further questions, except to say congratulations to the team.
Director Ramirez.
I just want to echo gratitude to Director Kuhlenberg, to the team, the RFCA leadership, to everyone who participated, to our team, to our leadership, to everyone who participated. I know that this was a big mountain to climb together. And I am very hopeful at the relationship building that'll come from this. I'm very hopeful at all of the productive conversations, continued conversations that are going to come from this. And I'm really excited about the positive student outcomes that I know will result from this. So I really look forward to the continued collaboration from everyone and the partnership. I think this was something that this board was very committed to. And so we're very appreciative of all the time, the extra time given to make this happen. And so it couldn't have been done with all of the extra people that had to be in this process. And thank you all so very much for putting in the time and the grit to make it happen.
Director DeFreitas.
Thanks. So I just want to say that, you know, the teachers, special service providers, and other certified staff are the foundation of the work of the Roaring Fork schools. They are the faces our students see every day, building relationships that support, connect, and inspire. They are the creative drivers for student growth, bringing together both passion and data when addressing the complex needs of diverse learners in their classroom. And they're the authors of hundreds of texts and emails that fly back and forth between home and classrooms, answering questions, reminding, reassuring, reminding, and weaving caregivers into the fabric of their kids' education. Nothing frustrates me more than when the language of sacrifice and martyrdom is intertwined with the work of educators in our country. Most of us have heard some version of a story in the news or on Facebook that equates teaching to some sort of spiritual calling that requires participants to eschew worldly goods and devote themselves to thankless labor, then that reasonable complaints or demands for compensation are somehow ethically questionable. This could not be more false. Teaching is a profession. It involves high-level degrees, constant professional development, and what often equates to a certification in project management just to get through a Tuesday. Offering professional compensation, clarity, and security to these highly trained individuals is the starting point for retaining them and their skills. Their job has never been easy, and over the past 4 or 5 years, it's become something else entirely. This historic contract and the supporting labor relations policies represent the Roaring Fork School Board and District's commitment to teachers. We need them, we respect them, we value them, and we want them to want to stay. So thank you all so much for all that work.
I want to echo the gratitude that everyone on the board has expressed. This was a massive undertaking, being the first iteration of this contract and the first time that our district tackled this. It's not something that any of us had to do, but it's something that we all wanted to do and committed to getting done. And I'm incredibly appreciative of the efforts and advocacy that the RFCA provided for all of the teachers in our district. I think that every member and non-member should be proud to have all of you at these tables and at the helm of this organization, because you're doing an excellent job advocating for staff. And as we all know, there's necessarily conflict. It's part of the process, but the way that we've worked through the conflict, I think, has been productive, and I'm hopeful for the future, and the way that this collaborative process will continue. I am grateful that we've honored the history of collaboration in our district and didn't go to a straight negotiation process. It feels like we all understand and recognize consistently that students are at the forefront of all that we do, and they're the reason that we're all here in these spaces. And so being here and doing this work with you all has been nothing short of an honor. I've said it before, but this is historic for our district. And hopefully this sets the tone for many, many years in the future of continued collaborative conversations and a way to show not just our gratitude, but our appreciation, our respect for our educators, because we know that that is the key for student success. We recognize it. So thank you all. And thank you, Dr. Cole, for taking this on in your interim year. I know that it was a huge ask and you stepped up to the plate and led it forward. So I can't thank you enough for all of that and for you leading your team through this. Thank you. We have 5 minutes for additional board discussion if anyone has anything else to add.
Well, I just wondered if the RFCA team would like to say anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of people to thank, starting with you guys on the board. Betsy jumping right in when you were elected last fall. Jasmine, I know there was a meeting early on that you were like the last minute fill in when we needed someone in the room from the board. Kenny taking a lot of heat through the IBB process and really articulating kind of the perspectives that he had to represent as a board member. Lindsay's been great about always moving us forward, finding ways to keep the process going. And Catherine, I want to thank you for making us do this the right way, making sure we got this right. Because like you said, it is a historic agreement. Dr. Cole, I want to say thanks to you, starting off as an interim superintendent, but really embracing that role as if it was yours. And I'm glad it turned out to be yours. And then there's a lot of people behind me and at home and trying to make their way to this meeting that were involved in this process. It was certainly a team effort. And I'm really excited that we're done. It's a reality, which is something that I don't think a lot of our rank and file teachers really understand yet. But I think they will, and I think this is going to be a great thing for our district.
I just want to echo what you said, Catherine, about the collaboration. I really loved coming into this district and watching this collaboration, and I know it doesn't always play out this way. And I know in other districts, there's not the same relationship. So thank you all for all of us. I think Dr. Cole, the school board, all the teachers for honoring and knowing that this is always a collaboration between us, and whatever hard issues that we run into, we work through. And I've loved getting to be a part of that action of just working things through. So.
Thank you. Anything else? I think this feels like the right time to call the vote.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Teitler,
Aye.
Director After.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking in with us. All right. Next business in order, board reports and comments. We'll begin with Director After.
Great. A few of us had the opportunity to go tour the Meadowwood space. Was that 2 weeks ago? It feels like a long time ago now. And wow, I mean, Chief Bompok led us through a tour with the great team on the ground there, and I was just totally blown away. You really don't get a sense of the magnitude of the site until you actually go in. And I know it's going to be even better once it's fully complete, but glad to be able to see that. And thanks to the team that gave us the tour. We mentioned a couple times that we had a finance committee meeting, and I think we have another one scheduled in early June. I read in the Sober Sun about Krista Barlow, the Colorado Athletic Director, 3A Athletic Director of the Year, which is very cool. I just wanted to mention that. I don't know, Krista, but very impressed with the work that she has done to deserve that recognition. So that's very cool. And that's it for now.
Thank you. Thanks. Director Ramirez?
A couple things. I wanted to mention, so we did have a Federal Relations Network meeting. It looks like we are on schedule for September. So that's very exciting. I feel like as we've been meeting, it becomes more real of like who we're going to be hosting. And so it'll be interesting to see what that gap provides us of planning. I think there's a lot of details that maybe I didn't think we're going to be put on, maybe an expectation on us to support. And so I think we're going to want to schedule some time to have those conversations. I want to mention that I attended the equity symposium that was hosted at the building called over there. No.
Third Street Center.
Third Street Center. Thank you. I was very excited and grateful for that event. I think there's a lot of conversation that amongst our partners were being had that I think it would be a really good opportunity, one in particular about bilingual education that I think was really impactful to everyone in the room. So I think that conversation is something that we could have in the year ahead, because we're close to the end of the school year. I wanted to also mention a conversation that I had on Monday with some Glenwood Springs community leaders. I have been working with a group of leaders to sort of decide what communication and conversation could look like. And so I've had some conversations now on the possibility of a town hall June 10th. And I just wanted to make sure for our board directors to not only extend the invitation, but to make sure that I shared it so that if you guys were available, I think it would be a really great opportunity to have all of us together, as well as the team, if possible. And then I wanted to mention, and then I don't have the exact date, but I mentioned it to Director Kuhlenberg and to Superintendent Cole that there's a conversation on the education fair happening in possibly July. And I just want to make sure that I start mentioning that to our team, because I think that is something that we should all make a concerted effort to try to attend. I believe it's going to be held in Glenwood, which I'm very excited about. Go Glenwood. And so I just really wanted to make sure I started flagging these dates because summer gets busy for all of us. And there are still things that I think come up for us as directors to attend. And I have an upcoming URA meeting. Is that what it's called?
Urban Renewal Authority?
Yeah, Urban Renewal Authority meeting. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But at least there's more frequency, which is nice. And I'm excited to bring back whatever happens in that meeting. So, oh, and then our leadership meeting that we're trying to still strategize for.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's it.
Director DeFreitas?
Oh, man. I had some things that just left my head to report. Very important. It's been a lot of extra work and communication, and I just wanted to appreciate. Oh, wait, without that appreciation.
Not yet.
Never mind. I'll report that. Forget it. I have nothing to report.
Director Tyler?
I would like to thank the Carbondale Town trustees last night who.
Can't appreciate people yet.
Board report.
I'm kidding.
I don't appreciate, no. Appreciate them for letting us come and be at town hall and be part of their meeting, and just to forge a relationship between the town and the school district, and just trying to keep that bond growing. And especially as we talk about important conversations such as mental health and SROs school resource officers, and it was just a good face-to-face, and director after, Dr. Cole was there also, and so that was a nice communication to be able to have. I would also, as part of the Meadowwood, what's happening over at Meadowwood is that one of the buildings is going to be having move-ins in July and the other two buildings in September. And just what a great job that they're doing over there. The whole FCI crew, who's really been on time, really professional, doing a great job of keeping us updated as we go. And along with that, the work of Chief Bompock moving us all together, and with the housing lottery that we were able to put up for the 50 units that we have to put out to staff, there was almost 100 applications for those 50 units, and the vast majority of, or a great majority of the people wanted the sort of smaller units, the studios and the 1 bedrooms, and there was less of a need at this point for 2 and 3 bedrooms. And so in the end, there ended up being a few extra 3 bedroom units, that 5 3-bedroom units that weren't accounted for. And so the housing committee met and sort of came up with some protocols on what to do with those. And there's going to be another like mini lottery to sort of say if people want to move up from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom that didn't fit the requirements, that would be a way to try to fill up and make sure that we are filling all of our spaces. I also had a chance to meet with the parent mentor group in Glenwood Springs. There was like 25 or 30 parent mentors there, and we just spent the hour talking about possibilities and different ways in which the parents can be involved in the school district and how they can get involved, and different websites that they can go to, and understanding of some school policies and ways that they can connect with the district. And it was a really positive meeting that I had with them. And then finally is just an update on our BOCES meeting, and the BOCES budget was approved for next year. They were very receptive of listening to us as a district, and to some of the other districts also who were involved in BOCES, of wanting a more streamlined budget and more being more specific, we'll go that way, on what the budget was asking for and how they could communicate that to us. And so we met and got the budget passed. But some of the things that were really neat that was happening in the budget, especially one thing that I really appreciated, was the CLS offerings, which are courses that students can take throughout the years at high school, especially, and some middle school also. If there's not courses offered, they have a vast offering of classes that can be taken from students, either for credit recovery or for just some course that's not offered. If they're wanting to study languages, there's the ability to do German or some other languages, and they just have course offerings of probably, I don't know, it looked like 60 or 80 courses that students can take. And so that was really neat to see. And that there is going to be a retreat in the end of June for BOCES. And so if there's any information anybody wants to make sure that gets passed along to BOCES, to let me know, and I can pass that out.
Excellent. Thank you. Back to me, right? Yeah. Policy committee, we get consistent updates through policy approval. I did want to share that Chief Landon has started the work of planning out next year's policy review cycle. And so if there's anything in particular, any policies that board members specifically would like to bring up within the next academic year, to please reach out and let me know so that I can work with him on ensuring that we incorporate those. DAC membership is down right now. And so I think any efforts that we can make, or anyone else that's here could make, in recruiting people to serve on the DAC would be appreciated. They've moved their meeting locations to Glenwood Springs to hopefully help with people being able to get there, but they are actively trying to recruit, and they're going through leadership transition right now. So anything we can do to support them in that would be helpful. Legislative review committee has wrapped. Unfortunately, I wasn't as active this year because they were on Friday afternoons when we were doing CBC and superintendent search and other meetings. So I missed several of those throughout the spring. But that was a great thing to serve on. I'll try to serve on it again next year, but if I'm not, I would encourage another board member to. It's a great way to have a statewide perspective on policies that are being considered by the legislature and to make sure that our rural resort town voice or rural outside of a resort town voice is represented in the Capitol when they're considering legislation and the impacts that it could have on us here, since we are uniquely situated. And things often shake out differently here than they do on the Front Range. And then my last note is just about SACs. I've been able to go to a few SAC meetings within my schools this year. And I'm encouraged by the work that the SACs are doing and the organization that they've created themselves, and how they are leading themselves forward. And so just wanted to make a note about that, and hopefully we can all continue to attend those as we're able. And that's all I have to report back out right now. Our next and final agenda item for this evening is appreciations. Starting with Director Ramirez.
So I had a very eventful morning with 8th grade passages and a kindergarten graduation. And one of my favorite things about kindergarten graduations is that the kids get to say who they want to be when they grow up. I'm gonna get all emotional now because I was crying all day. And I had this thought in the moment of seeing these little tiny people with their cap and gown on the stage, and you know, whether they spoke English or not, so confidently sharing who they wanted to be when they grow up. And you know, it goes without saying that without teachers, we wouldn't have all of the different professions in the world. But I really want to appreciate our students today, because I just to see those little like faces so excited and happy and so trusting of us. And maybe it was because as a board member too, I was sitting there watching my kiddo across the stage. I just kept thinking, like, I'm really grateful that students pick us as a school district, pick our schools. They choose to be cougars or demons. And I know that, you know, across the span of our district's timeline, things have looked very different and have changed so much. But there are so many students who show up to our schools day in and day out, trusting that we have the best interest at heart, trusting that we care about them, trusting that we want the best, trusting that we are the school for them, and that we're going to help them with their dreams. And just, I think that one of the things I'm most proud of as a board member on this board is that we are so student-centered. And I'm really just filled with gratitude today for being a part of the school district, being an alumni of the school district, and having my kids in the district that I graduated from, that my family graduated from. I'm just of so much appreciation today. Thanks.
Director DeFreitas.
Sure. One of my appreciation goes to the teachers and special service providers who are working to prepare IEPs, ALPs, and a bunch of other very complex, very personally driven documents and sets of procedures. If you're not sure what those mean, it's individualized education plan or advanced learning plan. And I know there's a lot of other ones that relate to addressing the needs of diverse learners. That is a complex process. It's a conversation with each parent or caregiver, with the students, and it's got testing and it's got documentation, it's got state and federal requirements involved. And there's a lot of work going into those to make sure that especially those students who are going to be leaving one building, going to another next year, are going to be set up to succeed in the way that they need. So appreciation goes to the educators working hard on those right now. On the board, I want to appreciate policy committee work. You all make sure that the work we are doing is thorough, dealing with complex topics constantly moving forward the conversation of district values and student learning, student centered. And I know that those are hours and hours that are dedicated towards that. So I wanted to thank Director Ramirez and Director Kuhlenberg, who've served on that all year. And that is not a small task. So, and obviously Dr. Cole and everyone else who supports those meetings as well.
Director Tyler?
For my appreciation, I'd like to give a shout out to Roaring Fork High School. I've gotten a little bit of a better insight into them this year, having a student living with us who's a senior this year, and just they've done a really great job in communicating throughout the year, and especially as the year has been coming to an end with all the things that are in motion. It's just been very great messaging from the front office, from the principals, from the counselors, and I think a culmination sort of all of the things that happened there was the awards night and art show combination that happened last week. And it just was really great to see all of the work that is going on there for the students. And the academic part of it was great, as was the art show. And it was just really a nice combination that sort of like combined the artistic and the creativeness with the dedication to the curriculum and the academics. And what I really liked about the academic side of it was that the students chosen for awards by the teachers weren't just like necessarily like this was the best GPA student in the class. They really like had that personal connection with the students. And I really appreciated the personal connections and the anecdotes and the stories that went along with why they were choosing those students. And it just makes me feel good that they have those connections with the students there. And then the art show is just, as always, a beautiful place to be and a really great feeling. And just so a shout out to the art teachers, Leslie Curie and Kimberly Carpenter, and then Michael Black, who is the wood teacher, and just what they were able to put out is really a great show. So thank you to Roaring Fork.
Director After?
Yeah, in the, while this is a moment of transition, like you were talking about in the beginning of the meeting here, and a lot of people are gonna be able to take a little bit of a break. I do want to acknowledge that for a lot of folks in the community, this is when things really start to amp up. So thanks to the many community partners who are starting summer camps on June 3rd, and keeping especially the younger kids enriched and safe during the summer. And then of course, for a lot of the parents whose jobs are really starting to get busy for the summer season, whether they're in hospitality and food service, working long hours, in retail. There's a lot of summer oriented professions here. And so it's a bit of a, as you all know, a mixed bag, and trying to ensure that your kids are safe and enriched during the summer. And so huge thanks to all the community partners who are helping with that, whether it's Summer Advantage or AVSC and SKICO, or the myriad camps throughout the valley, and the other caregivers as well.
Okay. Somehow have a list. So going through things. So I'm going to try to go through it kind of quickly. I wanted to give a shout out first to all of our parents right now. It's a super busy time, and I feel like as a parent right now, we're getting hit up for lots of requests and lots of asks for volunteering, getting our kids ready for all the different activities, and just managing it all through this crazy time, and keeping our kiddos motivated through all of this. It's not easy for me, so I know it's not easy for everybody else. So I wanted to give that thanks. Wanted to also give a thanks to our school admins, our secondary schools who are preparing for major graduation ceremonies coming up, and then all of our schools who are simultaneously wrapping up this year while also planning for back to school and student placement in August. It's a lot that they're carrying currently, so wanted to give them a shout out for that. Wanted to specifically thank Desiree Pimentel, who works for BF in our community and has done so much for our classrooms and our kids and our teachers throughout the last, I think she's only had this position for a year. And now I feel like it's already baked into everything that we do. But just again, today I got a message from her, and I was like, she really does so much. And then lastly, wanted to thank Adam, and I know I always say his name wrong, Carb, for this beautiful photo project that's on the wall that we all admired when we walked in tonight, which is amazing and also a very welcomed sprucing up to the space. It's always great to see our students on the walls and appreciating the time and energy and effort that goes into showcasing our students in that way. So sorry, I went through those quickly. All right.
Wait. I have one thing.
What?
I forgot to mention that the State Board of Education is going to be here on June 11th.
June 11th.
And that we, thanks to Superintendent Cole, will be hosting them. So, and I will be there just to be in support of all of our big asks that we're going to make. Sorry, thank you.
Thanks for adding that. Sorry about that. All right. So now if there's no further business and no objection, meeting will be adjourned. It is 8:11 PM.